the New York Yankees have given former Atlanta Braves starter Max Fried an 8-year, $218 million deal. Pending a physical, so it's not official yet, and they've not announced it, but it is the largest ever deal for a left-handed pitcher and the fourth largest deal for any pitcher in baseball history. The three bigger than that, Shohei Ohtani, special circumstances there, obviously. Yoshinobu Yamamoto got $325 million over 12 years. And Fried's new teammate, Garrett Cole, got 9 years and $324 million. This deal, full no trade clause, no deferred money for Fried. This will be his age 31 through 39 seasons with the Yankees. Is this a good deal or a bad deal? And either way, does Max Fried need to send Juan Soto a gift basket?
Yeah, it definitely changes the feeling for Yankees fans for sure, right? Like right off the bat, you're upset about Juan Soto. And then this is a little bit of, I don't know, I want to call it a consolation prize by any means, Lindsay, because we're talking about one of the best pitchers in the free agency. But, you know, you go from missing out on Juan Soto less than 24 hours to getting arguably the best pitcher on the market in Max Fried in just a short amount of time. Yeah, I think that gift basket might have to be sent over to Queens from Max Fried. This is really going to be an interesting rotation. I don't think it's a bad deal for New York. I don't think at all. I think you might call it a slight overpay if you want to call it and consider to how, you know, his value has looked up if you want to play on those value sites. But it seems like almost every starting pitcher in the market this year is getting a little bit of an overpay. They're getting, you know, the competition is coming into play. And I will say the fact that the New York Yankees missed out on Juan Soto, they were making sure that they weren't going to miss out on one of those two pitchers left in Max Fried and Corbin Burns. So not surprised they were willing to go a little more. I want to see what's next from this Yankee squad. Let's see if they are willing to spend more of that $750+ million they were willing to spend on Juan Soto. But overall, what an exciting time. If you're a Yankees fan, this rotation is stacked.
Yeah, the rotation as of now, and obviously Fangraphs doing what they do. They've already updated the roster resource depth chart here. Garrett Cole is your one. Max Fried as your two, fellow lefty Carlos Rodon, who signed his own big deal a couple years ago, as the three with Luis Gil, and then behind him, somebody, right? Could be Marcus Stroman, could be Nestor Cortez, could be Clark Schmidt, could be Will Warren. You have a lot of different options to fill that fifth role in the rotation, and kind of makes you wonder, it's a Yankees team that obviously still has openings at every non-shortstop infield position. They need to figure out first, second, and third. Yes, they have Josh Chisholm who can do one of those or center field. They need to integrate Jason Dominguez into the outfield. They're obviously, feels like they're not going to be done. And my question's going to be, and we had this conversation when Soto first went on the market. Do you sign Juan Soto for close to $50 million a year, or do you go sign multiple other players? Well, 27 and a half or so of that is now going to Max Fried every year. What position, if you think that Jason Dominguez can play center and you think that Jazz can play second or third, then you've got to fill one infield spot plus first base. Can you do that and still stay under what Soto's AAV would have been? Or do you have to make a trade to finish filling out the roster?
If they do it the right way, and what I mean by the right way is what the Yankees fans are expecting to be the right way, the old Yankee way, right, Lindsay? If they do it that way, I think you can do it in both. I think you can make some solid free agent signings, and you can still make the trade that you're looking for. Maybe a possibility of bringing Cody Bellinger in that has been moving around and circulating for so long. I think the biggest glaring need right now, though, now that the pitching portion's out of it, even though Juan Soto is not in the picture anymore, even though he played a corner outfield spot, I think the glaring need is second base. They need to figure out that middle of the infield. Gleyber Torres not being there. Right now, Fangraphs have a guy from the Arizona Fall League sitting in there, Caleb Durbin. So right now, I don't think that's going to be exactly who's going to start on opening day. I don't see that happening. I think that's who they have to address right off the bat is second base. And I think they will. But I would not be shocked if we continue to see what the Dodgers have done over the last 2-3 weeks and constantly been calling in names. We've seen passing bombs, the Dodgers signing Edman, the Dodgers signing Snell over and over again. I would not be shocked if the next 4 or 5 days, it's the Yankees that are coming in. I think we're going to start seeing them start reeling in some names. Maybe an Anthony Santander coming in. I could see him being a New York Yankee very soon.
Yeah, I do think that there is merit to getting Cody Bellinger simply because he does give you insurance if you're counting on some sort of youth, right? Right now, you have Jason Dominguez penciled into center. You have Ben Rice penciled into first. Obviously, Bellinger being able to play both of those spots. Were one
It's
of
huge.
those guys to stumble, he can step in and fill into their role. And then you still would need to either sign somebody for second with having Jazz Chisholm at third, or sign someone for third and have Jazz at second. So it feels like you could fill the role. You could make one more significant signing, kind of fill the role between that and a trade. And you could probably pencil in all of these, obviously barring injury and things like that. But yeah, Yankees definitely are not done. I expect them to keep on going. And what I think people forget when they see this deal for Fried, and they think that Fried is getting a little bit overpaid on this, something to remember. And I was trying to pull this up and find this right here. It ended up being from Sarah Langs. Who else? Since the start of 2020, for all pitchers who have thrown 550 innings or more, the lowest ERA in baseball, Max Fried, 281. Corbin Burns is at 288. There's the other marquee free agent that they were after. Zach Wheeler at 294. Max Scherzer at 302. Garrett Cole at 312. And Framber Valdez at 312, who we'll get back to a little bit later in the show. So I feel like the Yankees, I agree with you. They're not done. I do think that, yes, you probably had to go fair value on Fried was probably 7 years instead of 8. Fair value was probably, if it was 8 years, probably right around 200 million, but maybe a little bit under. But you have to overpay in this market. And I do think that if it's me, if I'm having to figure out, do I want Corbin Burns or do I want Max Fried? Give me the guy that has not had a drop in velocity in Max Fried over a guy in Corbin Burns who has had some peripherals going the wrong way for the last couple seasons. Although he's still been effective, he's not been the same pitcher from an inputs perspective that he was when, in his Cy Young contending days. I do feel like despite Fried's frequent and frustrating, usually short injured list stints, he's still been one of the more reliable pitchers from an innings and a starts perspective, with the exception of the one extended absence in 2023.
It's fascinating. That's the ERA thing from Fried and how he's one of the lowest with all those innings pitched. And that's a good thing. And it shows that this division that he's going into, this is arguably one of the hardest divisions in baseball. Well, he was just in the hardest division in baseball with the National League East. It shows that he can do it at a high level. Teams around them were already expecting the Yankees to sign a left-handed pitcher. I mean, look at the Baltimore Orioles signing Tyler O'Neill. He crushes against lefties. So he's going to have some tough competition heading into this. And when it goes against Baltimore, goes against Toronto, Tampa Bay, Boston, you name it. But I think Max Fried's up for the challenge. When I look at this rotation right now, Lindsay, and I see all these names that are great. When you call the Coles, the Frieds, Rodon, Stroman, and then all the other ones lower, as you mentioned, a possible of Cortez with Schmidt, with Warren. It kind of reminds me at the beginning of this last season when we were kind of making the joke and laughing at all the names that the Dodgers had opening day. And it was like a graphic. I think MLB Network had it. And there was like multiple names on the graphic. Names were falling off the graphic with as many players and pitchers that were available for them heading into the year. Kind of has that same feeling. But when you look at these names compared to those names of the Dodgers at the beginning of the season, not many of these have injury concerns. And that's really exciting if I'm a New York Yankee fan heading into 2025, knowing that I have these amount of arms. And who's to say that they're not out? Would you say that they're out on Corbin Burns now? I mean, is that a possibility that they could go for both? I'm not, it's not likely, but is it still a possibility?
Given that they were in the CBT last year, and so your qualifying offer penalties are higher. If it was Snell instead of Burns, I would think they would at least have conversations about saying, could we bring both these guys in? I would expect if they were to keep adding pitching, I would expect it to be probably a lefty for the pin. Tanner Scott's obviously the premier one there. Maybe Fried's buddy AJ Minter, would be an option for a lefty from the pen. Because if you look at the makeup of their bullpen right now, they project to have one lefty in the pen if you assume that Nestor Cortez is not in the rotation, but he's in the bullpen. And he said himself last year he wanted to be in the rotation. So not having lefties in the bullpen, it'd be great to have 2 or 3 in the rotation, but not having any in the bullpen's a problem. So I would expect, as much as I'd love to see them just say, you know what, we're just going to get the best pitching we possibly can and just destroy the East, I do think a lefty reliever like a Tanner Scott would be a better situation for them to go into and allow them to have money, have the Soto allocated money left over, were they, over trying to get another premier starter and dealing with the draft pick penalties that would come with that from having to give up more picks. It reminds me of the Giants having to give up picks for both Chapman and Snell, and then losing Snell after only 1 season, right?
It's true.
So
that's
not
true.
done, but if it's me, I'm adding a premier lefty reliever over another starting pitcher, even if they could get some money. Great. Because when they're all healthy, Cole, Fried, Rodon is a intimidating 1 through 3. And Luis Gil was, rookie of the year. It's a really good 1 through 4. And if you can get 2 or 3 of those guys into a postseason series, or really the Tigers showed us, if you can get 1 into a postseason series, you have a chance, right?
There's been huge lists of all the players that the Yankees have missed out on. Bryce Harper, Carlos Correa, you talk about, and in this case, Juan Soto after free agency, just to name a few. There's quite a big. And there are many people on social media talking about how Hal just can't get it done. Cashman just can't get it done. And then, the trust level, if you will, for lack of a better term, the trust level is definitely on a scale of 1 to 10. I'd say after the Juan Soto news, it's probably down about a 3. Signing Max Fried and showing that they're still willing to get the right pieces and spend money. And if they continue to keep on from that, how far up is that going to rise? Where do you think Cashman and Hal are going to sit in the trust factor for these fans heading into spring training?
Adding Fried's great, but we mentioned so many options for your rotation that yes, Fried's a postseason starter, right? He's the top, is a great number 2. I don't know if you don't add a big bat for a corner infield spot or for the outfield or something that the fans are going to be happy. I don't think you can get above a 5 on the trust level without getting some sort of big bat for either, something like left field. Maybe you put Grisham in center with Dominguez, let them play together, or a big bat for third base or first base or something like that. I feel like you still need to make one more significant move for the fans to not only have some trust back, but be confident that even without Juan Soto, you guys can still compete in one of the toughest divisions in baseball. I'm going to put it behind the National League East, but I'm a bit of a homer too. I still think you're probably not going to be above a 5 without adding that big bat.
I'm with you. No, I'm with you. I agree completely on that. This is going to be fun. And I do think we're going to hear the Yankees names quite often over the next few days while they're wrapping up winter meetings and getting into this weekend. I would not be shocked to hear a passing bomb or 2 from the Yankees over the next few days. Would not shock me in the slightest, Lindsay.